just want to maybe say just a little snippet. Yesterday, during one of the intermissions between the programs, I went and sat in the garden and was amongst a few different flowers. And just sitting there, I noticed all these bees coming into the flowers, and there's maybe like 4 or 5 different species of bees that came. And you know, when you stop and are able to have a moment and just zoom in, you can notice the miracle of every single flower petal and all these perfectly unique colors that are coming into existence for the service of the Lord. And you think of Devananda Prabhu nourishing all these plants, and you think of all these species of bees coming and getting their pollen and then sharing the pollen so that the other flowers can grow. It's really just a wonderful small ecosystem of seva that is existing in all these little 2 square foot spaces everywhere, and all part of this wonderful temple where so many great devotees are giving the energy of their lives towards something very high. And it was a wonderful little moment of appreciating what is favorable to devotion and how so many small, seemingly small, but when you actually stare at it, you realize it's an infinity of beautiful detail down to the tiniest stamen. That's all occurring in the seva of Mahaprabhu. So, very beautiful to be able to come and visit and be a part of this, even just for a few days. Hopefully engaged properly in service.
And I hope that this meditation, the more that you're meditating on Saranagati, we'll start to see that all of these, all of the scriptures, all of the stories, all of the words that are actually coming from our teachers, they're all infused, actually. It's the firmament of all of these different stories that's going on, right? All of the different teachings of Srila Guru Maharaj, everything comes into this completely cohesive structure of how the universe is actually operating. And it's like the binding force underneath everything that you're searching for inside of any kind of story, right? Like the critical point in any pastime that's occurring is somehow or other the infinite, the cause of all causes, who is unknowable and uncontrollable and who is the absolute autocrat, is somehow or other charmed by the heart expression of his own devotee. And that critical moment is expressing the type of quality of devotion that is inside of that person, that the Lord cannot stop himself. It's like completely amazing. And that element is actually the expression of Saranagati. And then you'll see, how can you say things like every wave is favorable? How can we say things that our environment is our friend? How can we say things that we only, like Guru Maharaj's summary, page 17 of Loving Search for the Lost Servant, of the whole Bhagavad Gita, right? Which is the summary of the whole Mahabharata, is going into that conversation. What should we do in this situation, right? Which is all of us. What do we do in this situation, right? Guru Maharaj's summary is in one sentence, and who can do that? I could read Bhagavad Gita endlessly, and I'm never going to have a one sentence summary. It's just me. He goes, but he's so kind that he's condensing it for us. Everything is quite all right. I need only adjust myself. All of that comes to light, actually, and all of it makes sense through the lens of our teachers giving us Saranagati. That's how we know Mahaprabhu is the most merciful, to be able to give you the essence of the thing that can communicate with the infinite. So it is foundational, it's fundamental, it's the beginning, middle, and end. It is the entire heart expression and the right, when we hear these famous sentences from Srila Guru Maharaj, like whether it's the relative or the absolute, you have to go for the spirit of the matter. Well, the spirit of the matter is Saranagati. That's why it's the absolute, unequivocal cure for fundamentalism, right? That's why it's not mandating that there is a physical expression of what has to occur. There is an internal transformation, and then any and every physical expression can be gone through appropriately, right? And of course, the big risk that happens when you say that is, well, what if you say you're doing one thing and do it? Yes, right? Like, it's always a risk. Everything that you're going to do can be betrayed, right? Ultimately, it's the ethic and the honor and the honesty and the attempt and the sincerity of the practitioner that is going to be the thing that moves it forward, right? And that means, and sincerity is a fruit in and of itself, right? We want to become more sincere, right? These are things like we're being and becoming, but in Guru Maharaj's own words, coming from, is it a Bhagavad Gita verse? Sincerity is invincible. Where he's getting
Bhagavad Gita,
right? Sincerity is invincible.
And Guru Maharaj's summation of that verse is sincerity is invincible. Who wants real good? Krishna says, Nahi kalyana krit kaschit. Means who wants real good, who actually wants good, who wants to do good. It means kalyana krit. Durgatim tatta gacchati means then he can never go to a bad place. Who really wants good, he can never go to a bad place. Nothing bad can come to him. And Guru Maharaj's summary of that is, who is sincere? That sincerity is invincible.
And that's the key of the whole thing, right? That means that interior intention, that there is an offering inside of it and a throwing of oneself towards the feet of the Lord. That's sincerity. And so we're trying to become sincere and offer something sincere and become more sincere, right? And the Lord himself is verifying through these verses, through the illumination of Guru Maharaj's most benevolent mercy, right? That we can now condense that verse also. Once again, so many mercies are coming actually over and over again where, sincerity is invincible, right? These are so important. And you're starting to think, what's the thing? Like, how can you have a prayer where you don't care actually if you're thrown into hell and you don't want to be relieved from your material circumstance? Like, who's praying that, right? Everyone's feeling like, I'm going to throw myself to the Lord because I'm suffering like crazy. And that's also true. But that's the way you can have that kind of prayer, because there's such an immense level of trust in the Lord, and like such an absolute trust that everything is occurring by his will. And I'm going to throw myself for whatever that is, because his will is so wonderful, is so kind, is so full of mercy, and is so full of this patient and careful adjustment that I need to go through. So I will try to quickly move through the different 6 limbs of surrender with a small definition or attempt. How can we define it? If this book says the way that you can live forever, positive and progressive immortality, okay? So at some point in time, it becomes negligible whether you're in this body or in another body. And then you become consumed with, how can I actually connect deeper and deeper? So that means if you live forever, and you do, and you're a soul on a journey, and you are, then what's the food of the soul? That means that these 6 qualities are actually infinitely revealing. So for sure I will fall short and ask to be forgiven for all of my failings in trying to express something that is so profound. Because any one of these qualities actually has infinite depths of what it can reveal. That's actually what is inside of the world of surrender, right? Otherwise it's something cheap. We would say, I want to become a Saranagata, and that's like not something to aspire to be. Right? But anything that's wonderful actually to be truly wonderful, there's some sacrifice that is required. There's some journey. And so the more wonderful it is, the more wonderful the sacrifice. And in Guru Maharaj's own words, each higher layer of consciousness is surrounded by a moat, right? And to pass through any of these moats must be higher levels of surrender and sacrifice, right? That's how higher consciousness works, right? It's something is actually transforming in us and we will be carried to another place. It's a completely opposite kind of mechanism than the exploitive external moving energy. Something is happening on the internal and we're being carried into some other thing. And all of us have experienced even sometimes no external changes even happens, and that karma, whatever that is, it can be done in an instant. So if it's not done, it's teaching us something. It's that stream. It can be like 1 minute to the next, the thing that plagued us for 10 years. Gone. Almost as if it was never there. Right? In Gurudev's words, he's saying we're going like a lotus flower down a stream. And that lotus flower can be pulled out of that stream at any time. It goes, when you turn on the light, doesn't matter if the room was dark for 5 minutes or 100 years. Right? So it's like it. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's light. Yeah.
Yeah, there's light. Then you're there. So it's okay. So you're going, oh, right. And
that was in SoCal. Actually, I've only asked Gurudev like 2 questions in my life, but it was one of the questions I asked that Gurudev said this answer to. And I have no idea what the question was, but I remember what the answer was. But Gurudev said, it's like you're in a stream, and the stream must go somewhere. He's talking about your karmic destiny. The stream must go somewhere. So you're in the stream, and because you're in the stream, you're going to end up going. If it's a waterfall, if it's a rapids, it's whatever, you're gonna go through that. And he says, but then you're plucked out. And you're in the land of freedom. And then he also said, it's like the land of freedom. And then he said, it's a categorically different existence. If the room is dark, it doesn't matter if it was dark for 1 yuga or 1 second. When the light comes on, it's light. Very amazing answer.
Yeah. And that principle, when we find something of true value, we don't feel disheartened that it was a large path that got us there. So in the same way, we have to view our life that we are actually being prepared for something. We don't know what we're being prepared for, but we have to trust that we're being prepared. And so that kind of adjustment is very wonderful, and we know that we will be so grateful at actually how kind those adjustments have come to us. Right? So we can start, there's different orders that people say them. I just always say them in the same order as Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jive Doya Kori, because that's easy for me to remember. So he starts with Doinya. Doinya translates to humility. We've said it a few times over this weekend, but I can never say it enough. Humility means being open to infinite possibility. Humility means we're adjusting ourselves to something that is greater than us. Humility means that what I don't know is more important than what I do know. And it's taking a posture of flexibility. Right? So humility is vitally important for our spiritual lives. It, at the minimum, injects a little bit of uncertainty into our proposals. There's at least some slice of our mind that will stay slightly uncertain of what we're proposing because we don't actually understand the totality of what's occurring. And at least to overlay that, even when we feel something very strongly, the Lord actually knows what's best in this situation. And I'm proposing something to him, and to the environment and to others. And it will save us from this like maniacal relationship with the environment.
Yeah.
So humility is a most wondrous substance. It is the prerequisite to making progress. Because why would we want to adjust to anything if there's nothing to adjust to and we know it all? So it is fundamentally important, and all of the faiths of the whole world agree on it, which is also an amazing thing because we get into a lot of different details on a lot of different things, but the whole faithful world is singing an anthem that this quality is absolutely important in the practitioner and the heart, right? And so humility is a wonderful thing, and all students, all true students of life are coming at it with some sensation of humility. And when we come into contact with someone who has a humble heart, we feel kind of shattered, actually. And the strangest thing is, the more sophisticated and wonderful the devotee is becoming, they're even more humble because you're moving closer towards the infinite. So there's like this paradoxical thing of feeling smaller and that you know less and less as you come into contact with more and more. So it's this very unusual quality that is getting mined in the hearts of saints. Really in the mind. And you see like really high, I mean, otherwise, why would these kirtans even make sense? Sometimes they're saying, how is he feeling so humble? And he's a self-realized soul. And then you think, well, is he just saying it for our benefit? And it's not his true expression. Oh. And the answer is, it can't be. They're not like making a facade of this song 500 years ago. They're like making this. It's because you're coming into contact with the infinite. And this expression is pouring from your heart, from their heart, right? So the closer in God. So humility, donya. The next quality is atma nivedana. Offering who you are. And we sang some of those songs. Surrendering myself to you has lifted from me the burden of false pride. No longer will I worry in any way to provide for myself. This throwing of who you are at the Lord's feet in honesty. And really, the Lord knows who we are, for better and for better.
There's, we sang that song yesterday, Nivedana Kori Prabhu, Tumhara Charan.
Yeah.
Patita Adhama Ami Jane Tribhuvane. So Atma Nivedana doesn't mean I'm going to give you my perfected self. Even our conception, and when we're in our imperfected state, even our conception of what our perfected self is also imperfect. And so we might have this thing where I was like, well, I'm going to wait till I'm perfect and then I'll offer you me. But when we see these expressions of the devotees, like, I'm a fallen soul. Mama sama papi na jagata bhitare. Actually, there's probably never been anyone so sinful as I am in the universe. Right? That kind of feeling. But what's the conclusion of the song? I'm completely messed up. I'm a hypocrite, I'm a fool, I'm fallen. Whatever I am, all I can do is offer it to you. As you are, submit yourself to the Lord. It's not like, I'm not going to come in front of Mahaprabhu until I'm not a hypocrite. I'm going to come in front of Mahaprabhu and say, you see me. I'm a fool, I'm a hypocrite. I have one ideal and I violate it. Right? I'm fallen. I offer myself to you. You take me. You make me what I can be to be your servant. Like this honest presentation. Not some false facade that we're trying to put on for everybody else and thinking that we're kind of fooling the Lord, Check it out, I took a shower. Clean. everyone say I'm a devotee? You can't? You're pretty messed up, because I am. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like none of that. It's just what I am. And you see me. And I have no choice except to offer myself to you. There's no other way. Atmanivedana. Jai. Danya Atmanivedana.
That's such a beautiful meditation. So then, embracing his guardianship. And there's also actually a Goptrish Varna Kirtan. Maybe we should sing that. We're concluding. And then this is said to be by our teachers, that all of the other qualities of surrender are inside of this guardianship consciousness. That my guardian is the designer and destiner, as Guru Maharaj says. Right? That he's caring for me more than I care for myself. That he loves me more than I love myself. He knows me more than I know myself. This type of, right? It's very important, actually, that all of this is predicated on that he's affectionate to you. He wants good to you. That's what a guardian is. A guardian is someone that takes care of you, right? And none of it makes any sense, actually, if he doesn't have affection for you. So then you're starting to go, oh, I'm starting to develop this eye for his affection in these circumstances that I'm going through, right? And that actually I am very protected by his guardianship. And so many times, right? I have been directed. I have been protected. I have been so carefully, actually, in so many situations that his loving and attentive, right? His attentive glance, right? He is actually interacting with this whole experience that I have. And so gently that he is doing that. Right? And then and exactly what I needed to pull this thing that I've been hiding for so long, right? It didn't even get the chance. Maybe it was even so buried that I didn't think it was there, right? But so carefully that thing is kind of coming and getting the chance to actually leave. You know, when we're thinking about our lives and when we leave, we don't want to leave the same way that we arrived in. We don't. Right? But then when the situation comes up where we actually get the chance to make the transformation, then we're feeling like, well, why now? Why me? You know, like those kinds of things. Like, have to remember actually that his attentive guardianship is in all of these circles, and that it's so important that everything else is encompassed in that. So it's not just like a negligible meditation in spiritual life. It's like, no, every day I need to remember that actually he's my guardian. He's so carefully and kindly taking care of us. And so that was the chapter that we read in sermons, Guardian Ruled Family from yesterday, is all about that particular quality. And then, where did it go? Trishvivarna? And then is it Bhakti Pratiko, Bhakti Anuko, or Avashyarati Vidrishna?
Confidence in the Lord's protection.
Tell us about confidence in the Lord's protection. Please.
Yes, Mataji.
The guardianship is the foundation because it permeates everything. Why be humble? Why give yourself? Why be confident in his protection? Everything is coming down to guardianship. That he's my friend. That he wants good for me. He knows what I need. He loves me more than I love myself. This complete abandonment of suspicion is the foundation. And it's the foundation to actually being able to have a courageous and progressive life. Because you know that the Lord is at the basis. And sometimes we give this idea of confidence in the Lord protection. It's the cowherd boys. They're singing Aghasura, and some of the cowherd boys are going, hey, that's a cool cave. And the other cowherd boys are like, that looks kind of like a snake.
It's kind of scary.
And they're like, okay, well, let's go check it out. Well, that sounds maybe dangerous. Yeah, but Krishna will say, oh, right, that's true, actually. You can embark on the adventure of life. Whatever Krishna wants from me. He's my protector. Sometimes we find ourselves in fearful circumstance always. We can feel ourselves afflicted with fear. Sometimes the most surprising things will make us afflicted with fear. Because we have all kinds of different samskars. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, my parents asked me to order pizza one day, and I was absolutely terrified of the phone conversation and how I would look like an idiot, and I didn't know how to do it. And I mean, it was making my heart beat real fast. You know what I mean? You're fearful all the time. Anyone else get fearful? No? Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have said. Okay, thank you.
You can ask Kel about when I was building the house.
We have such a fear-based relationship with reality, and it's very difficult for us to conceive of who we would be without fear. We all have different manifestations of fear. And it's because we don't trust reality, and we don't want our egotistic framework to be disturbed. Right? We're really afraid that someone's going to come and challenge our entire sense of being. But to trust that our sense of being, if it gets challenged, that's good. And whatever is coming to me from me walking into this circumstance, that's good. And it's interesting because the cowherd boys went into Agasura and they did die. It's not like they went in there and it was snake stomach. Okay, well, this is kind of nice. And I was like, no, they died. And then Krishna did revive them. And but you know what I mean? It's not like the thing might happen that you're afraid of. And that much confidence in his protection. That the thing's happening that I was afraid of, and that's okay. When they jumped into the river with Kaliyasura, they left their bodies were dead in the poison Jamuna. Right? It's that much confidence in his protection. That even the thing that I'm afraid of, if it's occurring in his divine glance, and it all is, then that's good, and I have confidence. So, it's a foundational practice. We can always feel trepidation in all kinds of circumstances in life. And depending on our egotistic state, the trepidation might be that I look bad. And again, it's the example of the guy who got his legs and arms blown off. And you can be like, well, that's nothing compared to what you did. That's actually not the case. Whatever is your fear, it might be nothing to someone else, but for you, that's your mountain, right? And that's the mountain that you got to walk up, and everyone, it's nothing. What are you talking about? It's easy. It's and you're But what can give you the courage to move into that? If your life is pushing you there, and really it's the Lord pushing you there, and to walk into it. That's confidence in his protection. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in that song Atma Samarpane Gelaya Bhima. It's an incredible statement. Nahi korobu nija raksha vidhan. I will never even think about providing for my own protection. And if you think about it, the whole framework is security. Right? Think about the name Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu means, Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means comfort. It means soft bed, but really what it means is comfort. Right? And gold represents what? Security. Power, you can get what you want, and you're not going to get what you don't want. It's security. So it's like this demonic framework is all about the predictability and security of our comfort. And, to walk outside of that, that's a statement of faith. And an expression of Saranagati.
And then we move to Bhakti Pratikul and Bhakti Anukul. And these are actually very mysterious qualities. These range into an extremely unlegislated part of spiritual life. That's what I would say. And so they're very subtle and they're very individual. And the attentiveness to meditate on what is actually helpful for my spiritual life is so important. And what is that thing that needs to be left behind, right? The interesting thing about Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul is they're the thing that actually is moving, in the sense that we're craving motion deeper and deeper into his connection. And so what that will be for different people will be so different. And so, and so then that's where you start to get into the advice from the scriptures, right? So everyone has different decisions on their mind that are coming there, sometimes almost independent of us. They just can't stop reminding themselves in our consciousness, like this thing, it just keeps on coming. So we're consulting the scriptures. We're consulting the people that we value their opinion very much, right? We're asking them for their consultation. And then what Guru Maharaj would say is, ultimately then we're also getting some confirmation in the internal world. And I do very much like that sentence from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He says, we must never forget that inner Messiah who brought us here in the first place. Mm-hmm. There is trust. And we can actually say, like, the difference between a cult and not a cult, okay? Which is a very long-winded, complicated conversation. But to kind of like crush it down, cult just comes from the word culture, and every group of people, whether it's a business or a group of spiritual practitioners, they just have a culture that they're kind of creating. But then the word cult kind of gets this darker like shadow onto it. And that darker shadow, generally speaking, occurs when there is some conflict between what's being told to me and this inner voice in my heart, right? That's actually where like there can be that. Now, is it unequivocal in that sense? That's where it starts to get subtle, because we don't want to get rid of all the things that we need to get rid of, right? That's why we were talking. You can stay in lifetimes with anger, with grief, with lust, with all the different kinds of things that are like plaguing your mind. And the truth of the matter is we're attached and we're populating those things. So then we don't want to get rid of them. So someone may give you some advice, right? That's why like the true guru-disciple relationship is the most glorious relationship in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. Where like the guru is saying, you do this thing, and there's this unequivocal kind of trust. But the guru is not always manifest in that form, right? That's why this book manifested Sri Guru's grace, because Krishna is the ultimate guru, utilizing whatever he wants in the form of the environment, be it a person, a place, or anything, to communicate with us. But in those moments where it's like you don't listen to your mind and you listen to me, those glorious moments are that's like the juice of the whole universe, that we may find ourselves in that kind of situation, right? And when we're not in that situation, right? And this has happened, by the way, to every single disciple in the history of the universe. At some point in time, their guru is not going to be with them in physical form. And they must carry on with the words of their guru as their guiding post, and they've got to make decisions, right? You've got to take risk. And so that immense honesty of proposing with full trust that I'm offering something that's kind of off, but he's so kind that he's going to correct my misaligned offering. Which means you have to propose something. So I'm going to offer something new. That's good for my spiritual life. Okay? And the reason it gets subtle is at different stages of your life, it's going to be different things. You will, maybe even the thing that helped you in the past has to be rejected in the current chapter that you're in. Right? So that's why Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul are actually complex subjects to be navigated. But this idea that actually, if I'm sincere and that I am trying to be honest, and I'm also you have to look for the aftershocks of your decision making, right? So there are aftershocks, just the same as you're trying to look, right? What's the aftershock of doing service? That there will be some satisfaction and some renewed hunger for more. Okay? These are important gauges that Srila Guru Maharaj has given us, right? So like after doing some service, we shouldn't feel like crashed out and bitter. Okay? That would be helpful for us to notice. And then we get the chance to adjust ourselves and go, well, why am I feeling crashed out and bitter? What in me needs to adjust, right? We don't want to do years of activities where the outcome afterwards in the interior sanctum of our mind, we're bitter and like exhausted, okay? So then when we're trying to do some service, whatever it may be, some feeling of satisfaction is coming towards me, right? And renewed hunger for more. Then you know you're on some type of thing. He's going, oh, I'm feeling some heart, soul food is coming from this. And I wonder if there's a little more in that like direction. And then carefully moving that. That's accepting something that's helpful, right? And you're moving more in that direction. And you go, oh, this other thing inside of me, it's causing some strange patterns. I'm going to try to let that go, right? Because it's not as simple, you know, like they'll say in Chai Bega Domi Chai Dosha, he's saying don't take the association, quote unquote, of non-devotees. Right? Does that mean like you don't deal with the world? No. But if you're hanging out with people who are not assisting you in your journey and you can feel it, then that means you are taking their association. It doesn't have to do with physical proximity. It doesn't mean like don't go see your family ever. But if you go to your family who you love very much and you feel your consciousness like really crashing down, then you have to be kind of careful of that. Like that it's not actually assisting me on my journey so much. And when I'm around these people, like a kind of thing. And until you're fortified to the point where you can be around, and you have to, and yes, you do have to see super soul in them, and you do have some karmic bind to them, and the Lord is inside of them, right? The shadows inside of our own perception, like they may even have great faith, right? So many wonderful things, actually, if we're trying to cultivate that perception of them. So there's like this kind of vigilance with Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul, and it's very individual, and it has to do with kind of finding that subtle gauge of motion in our lives and trying to be attentive to that call, right? Trying to be attentive to what is the environment asking me to do and to have some fidelity to that. So that's my attempt at Bhakti Anukul, Bhakti Pratikul, and I hope that's helpful.
It's a very rich topic because there's these main kind of 5 limbs of surrender, and then it kind of goes, and do everything that's good for Bhakti, and don't do stuff that's bad for Bhakti. And there's all 6. And then you're like, okay, well, what's good for Bhakti? And we have, of course, Sri Rupa Goswami's guidance, which is, everybody knows this verse. I know you all know this verse. Utsahan nishchaya dharyad tat karma vavartanat sangatyagat sato vriddhi shabhir bhakti prasidhyati. These are 6 things that are helpful for Bhakti. So that's kind of our starting point of what's good, what's Bhakti Anukula, right? And they're internal qualities and also things that we do. Utsaha means enthusiasm. Keep an enthusiastic mood. And it's very interesting because there's a supposition within there, which is you can decide what mood you're in. Like, these things are very empowering. You know, so much of the framework that we get brainwashed in is like, you're a victim of your brain chemistry. It's like, I don't feel good. It was like, that's just my brain, and I just don't feel good. Like, you know, consciousness is superior to matter. Kind of like the thing we were starting at the very beginning. Consciousness is the basis in your consciousness, and matter does what you say. Be enthusiastic. Watch what you can do. You know, it's like, hey, get going. You know, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. And all of a sudden you feel energy coming through you, and you're like, I was literally just completely lifeless and energyless 5 seconds ago. Yeah. Switch your mindset, and all of a sudden you're like, let's get it. You know? That's utsaha. You can have that. Utsaha. Nishchoy. Nishchoy means confidence. Like, confidence means I know this is good, and I know I'm going to do this. By the grace of my gurus, I know this is good, and I know I'm doing this. And like, filled with that type of sureness. Dharya means patience. And what comes to mind is Guru Maharaj saying, on the journey to the infinite, sometimes we find that it's a little longer than we thought it would be.
There's that poem I always think of. I asked God for patience. He said no.
He said no.
He said no. Oh.
Then tat karma pravartana means all the different sadhanas that we're given. These different activities, tat karma. Sangha tyagat means to abandon the association of those who are inimical to devotion. And satovritte means be in the association of those amazing people who are seeking truth within their life. So anyone who's actually seeking truth is amazing. Be around those people. And those are good for bhakti. But even those are also pointing to like larger amounts of things that are helpful. And then of course we have the, you know, what is unfavorable, which is atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lovyamcha shabhir bhakti vinashati. Vinashati means to destroy. These things destroy bhakti. And atyahara means this tendency to over accumulate. You just need more and more. You need more food, you need more stuff, you need your garage fuller, you need more stuff in your closets, you just need more and more and more. You need to get a storage, start paying a guy 200 pounds a month to keep all your crap. Maybe get another one, because you need more stuff, really, for real. You want to have a huge estate sale when you're dead as hell. That's one of the most depressing things. It's like you go to one of these estate sales and you're like, my God, you could spend your whole freaking life just like, and then you're dead. And then everyone's like, ew, what were they thinking? Because it's not in style anymore. And the whole time they had it, they're like, oh my God, I'm so cool. Prayasha, see, this is bad quality. I am forgetting what Prayasha is. I don't remember. Huh?
Over endeavoring.
Over endeavoring, thank you. Maybe I'm not endeavoring enough. But over endeavoring means this, you're not tuned to the flow. You have fixed something that you want to make the external environment reflect. right? And you're just you're not alive to what's actually responding to you, right? And you're just pounding into it, destroying yourself, trying to make this one thing happen, right? And you'll use all your life energy blasting into that. That's over-endeavoring. There's a flow to reality that you're meant to come into consonance and harmony with. And not just be this imposing unit that blows all your energy toward some manufactured objective that you think if it manifests, you're then going to be happy, which is all, we talked about this earlier, this is all Bahiranga Shakti, and the total illusion that if you just organize these external things in the right order and the right way and the right things, then all of a sudden it's going to result in happiness inside you. It doesn't happen.
Can I say one thing? Actually, I think that's
Of course.
really helpful. All of these Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul, there's a subjective element to it. And it's super important. And I'll just use rules and regulate too much adherence to rules and regulations, too little, as just an example. Because I find this helpful for me, and hopefully it's helpful to you. What one person finds barely following a rule, okay, for another person is so easy, okay? Like, so for example, you say, oh, it's helpful to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and eat this kind of food, or do whatever the things are. For one person, like, that's just like they're doing that for decades, and it's like, that's like an autopilot for them. That's not like pushing the envelope, okay? And for another person, like one of those things, like maybe they're just working on like trying to wake up early, is like an extremely difficult process. So that's why Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul are amazing, in the sense that it's wherever you are. So you have to find that tension, right? And we're all falling off of the edges of that tension. Every one of us, right? We're kind of veering. We can feel in our lives, we became a little like rigid, and that's also not like the flow. And then you can also become a little lax, and that's not the flow. But what that is for you is subjective and relative to you, where you are, right? For someone else, like for a full warrior, like whipping a little stick around for 20 minutes in the morning is not like a big workout, right? So you have to find the edge of where to make progress. And that means there has to be tension. Okay, so you have to find the edge where there's tension in Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul. And the tension means you're gonna try and go like, oh, is this helpful? Is this actually helpful to devotion? And push yourself, okay? And then you're gonna start to feel like maybe kind of like that's actually, and then, oh, what else needs that? Because you can't just press on the gas and go, right? Like there's a thing of like motion goes from like pumping, right? So then you're like, wait, I'm pressing on this thing, but I'm not letting go. So I'm running, but I'm like pulling boulders behind me. One of these boulders has to go in order for me to move forward. So then you have to find, where is that tension actually in that process in a subjective way? And so then that's also one of the dangers, really, this is an important thing, of like when we look at other people and we take our own, right? There's a nice quote, it says like, we see the world as we are, not as they are. Okay, so like now we're in a point of tension of what we're working on, and then we see someone else and we're like, oh, you really could work on this, but we don't really know what that other person's, like where their breaking point, where their tension point, where their thing is for them to make the next motion of offering in their lives. So it's an important meditation that can relieve us from this kind of like never-ending like judgment upon the environment. And think of, what is Narada Muni doing when he meets that hunter in the forest, right? Because it's, especially for like, in regular devotee culture, it's like eating certain foods is like verboten, right? And meaning forbidden. and so you're saying, and then he's running into a hunter, right? And this hunter in the forest is very cruel, right? He's like, keep watching these animals bleed out and die, like causing so much suffering. So what's his advice to this hunter? It's really important for us. Like It's like he didn't go saying like Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya, you know. He went to that hunter and he said, you kill them quickly. You stop causing so much suffering. He didn't even tell them, stop killing animals. Okay? So like when we're giving advice to others, right? What's that person's next progress? Like really you're praying to be utilized, that you can give them their next progress. Ultimately, the story of Murari has a lot of progression. And he actually moves way beyond that point of just not killing animals. But this is like what a true sadhu, they're giving medicine very appropriate to that circumstance. So what is appropriate in Bhakti Anukul and Bhakti Pratikul? What am I rejecting, right? What is he rejecting? Being like unnecessarily cruel / evil, you could almost say, to like do it quick. And so what that motion of progress is different for everyone. And also very helpfully, what everyone else's progress is may or may not be revealed to us. And that's very, very important. So it also gives you like affection for other people when you see them. Because, you know, otherwise it's like, you need to be doing this and this person needs to do that. And it's just like, maybe I gotta just let go of like that boulder of worrying about what everyone else needs to be doing in their lives, right? For me to make a little bit of motion. So I wanted to interject that because I find it a very helpful.
Right. There's no definition of what over endeavor is. Ultimately, it's an internal issue. Right? Over endeavor, because if you judge it physically, you're going to see a guy running 26 miles, and he actually can run 100, right? There's like these ultra marathoners. These guys can run 100 miles. They can run for 3 days and not sleep, right? They can do it. And you're like, well, you're over it. You know, it's like, no, I'm actually just, I'm out for a jog. It's 20 miles, like whatever. You know, the main thing is like, what is your purpose and what are you doing it for? Because the over endeavor really is about the imposition of an outcome on reality and blowing yourself out, and that can be manifest within a devotee. I mean, like Guru Maharaj tells us one story of a devotee who they were on parikrama and he was in terrible health, but he wanted to go on the parikrama because he felt like he had to go on the parikrama. And then he wanted to be humble, so he's about to leave his body that night, but he doesn't want to bother anybody, so he didn't tell anyone, I'm about to leave my body, right? And Guru Maharaj is like, that I did not appreciate. I did not find that to be bhakti, right? It's like, your body is actually for Krishna. Don't blow your body out and like feel like you're being humble and not tell anyone my body's about to like, you know, collapse and die. Like, you have to see your body as a tool for the Lord and maintain it for Him. And this idea that you're just going to destroy your body to, you know, get something done, that's an over endeavor. That's a prayasha. That's not a proper expression of humility. So these things are very, very fine. And then prajalpa means to spend your mind and your time to say useless things and to contemplate useless things.
Not controlling tongue.
Yeah, and to really, you know, sometimes there's like a taste when you like talk about what other people are doing or whatever. You know, there's a old saying, it says, first-class minds discuss ideas, second-class minds discuss events, third-class minds discuss people. You know, and when you're just like, oh, and did you see what happened? Like, that's all prajalpa. But prajalpa is really anything that doesn't have some import towards service. I remember when I grew up in Gurukula in ISKCON, there was like this, you know, people go on japa walks every morning. They go on and they have their beads in their hand. They're kind of just going like this, and they're like, just talking about whatever, this and that happened, and blah, 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 blah. And we used to call them prajalpa walks, not japa walks. it's like there's just this tendency where you want to just spend your mind and your words on useless things. And that's inimical to bhakti. Prajopa, and then niyamagraha, as Rai was saying, very, very subtle thing. Niyamagraha means too much attachment to the rules, too little attachment to the rules. There's so many rules, but ultimately we're not trying to become, like in our swarupa form, the ultimate expression of our consciousness is not like the most perfect rule follower. Nobody's like excited about that. Like nobody is going like, my God, what's the best thing I can possibly be? The best rule follower ever. Right? Like that's not where you're going. So you don't want to become just this like robot of rule following. And at the same time, you don't want to be unregulated. Because until your desires are reliable, then you have to have some regulation in your life. But that regulation always has to be subservient to a higher will. And if the higher will is served by breaking one of the rules, then you break the rules. It's not about, some self-centered, if I do this, then I get that. It has to ultimately not be transactional. And this transactional, like, if I do this, then I get that. That's the niyamagraha. That has to be abandoned. And again, extremely subtle. Extremely subtle. Jana Sangha means to associate with worldly minded people. And association is also a deep thing. Because it's like, man, I can't associate with worldly minded people. It's like, I'm in a world, though. Like how do you like not associate with worldly minded? You're like, I'm not going to Tesco. There's like a lot of janas in there. Like association means to receive their mindset. And sadhu sangha means they receive your mindset. So who's receiving association from who? Anytime you're in an interaction with someone, you're either getting their association or they're getting your association. And which one's happening? You have to be mindful of that. Right? Are they receiving some Guru Kripa through you? Or are you receiving some like bad association? Right? Some materialistic mindset. That's the care that has to be taken. Then Sato Vritti means Janasangascha. Oh yeah, then Lolyam. Lolyam cha. So Lolyam is said to be a spiritual qualification in the highest sense, this intense hankering for spiritual growth. But Lolyam in the negative sense means intense hankering for some objects. Intense hankering for some material circumstance to occur. And that can absolutely dominate you and take your whole life away. You can just be swept by that. You feed that desire, you feed it with your mind. And sometimes it comes and just takes us over. I mean, advertising, they understand how this happens. And the Bhagavatam lays this out. Your senses are exposed to their objects. Then your mind contemplates that object. Then your intelligence becomes captured. Your intelligence starts using itself for the desire to try to figure out a way to achieve or capture or control or accumulate that thing that your senses and your mind have latched onto. That's Lolyam. Right? That's when your entire conscious system gets possessed by something that's just flickering. So those are the basic kind of bhakti anukula and bhakti pratikula. Those things that are favorable, those things that are unfavorable. And then there's so many things, of course, we know within our life. We worship the deity, that's bhakti anukula. We perform kirtan, that's bhakti anukula. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of his songs says so beautifully, I will fill my nose with the scent of the manjaris that are offered to Krishna. That's bhakti anukula. Right? There's so many beautiful things that are favorable to devotion. But as Rai was alluding to earlier, there's also a personal journey that we're on. And we're all very unique. And Bhakti Anukul means, in a deeper sense, it means, who do I need to become in order to do this service that's in front of me? What's interesting is, like, for example, you may be in a position where you're suddenly called to manage, you know? And it's like, I don't like managing, and I'm not really a manager, but it's like, all of a sudden I'm managing. Like, when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't like I'm not the guy when someone's like, can you give me the manager? Like, I'm not the manager. I'm not the guy who's gonna. But all of a sudden you are. And that's going to require self-sacrifice. It's going to require the removal of the things within you that can't do that. And the inviting in of the things that allow you to do that. So sometimes when you get called into a role, and I'm just giving an example, you might notice all of a sudden that you're a control tripper and you start micromanaging everyone around you, and everyone hates it. And you're like, oh my God, I'm a manager and I'm horrible at this. And actually, I can't stop being horrible because they put the sponge in the wrong place. You know what I mean?
It's always the sponge.
It's always a freaking sponge, I'm telling you. And it was the wrong sponge and the wrong, you know what I mean? They didn't just put the sponge in the wrong place, but they actually were using the wrong sponge, and then they put it in the wrong place. But no, but the point is like, you might notice within yourself that you have like a control tripping tendency, and I'm just making this up because I don't have that. No, I'm kidding. But now you have to go like, wow, I have to become the person that doesn't have that quality now. I have to become the person that can do this service. Or you might find that you just lackadaisical and you don't care and you don't want to give your energy, right? And it's like, man, I can't be that guy anymore, right? I have to become this new person that's being asked of me. And as Guru Maharaj says, that means shedding something within you that you think is integral to yourself and inviting something new. And that new thing is Bhakti Anukul, and that old thing is Bhakti Pratikul. This thing is not serving my bhakti anymore, and I'm going to abandon it as a component of myself, and I'm going to invite this other quality in. And that's this deeper motion. I have to become the person to do the service that is asked of me. And that's a dynamic life. That's an expansive life. That's a life of real progression. That's a life of positive and progressive immortality. You know, why does Guru Maharaj say die to live all the time? Originally it's a phrase from a German philosopher, Hegel, who's seeing this, not just the dialectic, but like this upward moving dialectic. You know, it's cyclical, but it's moving in a progressive direction. It's moving higher. And Guru Maharaj appreciated that viewpoint of reality. That we're on a journey that's moving higher, but as a part of us being a part of that cycle that's moving higher, that's positively and progressively in motion, we have to continually die as we currently are in order to live in the new reality that we want to be a servant in. This is a very high ideal. It's a very high ideal. And it's not easy because it takes constant self-examination. Susamiksha. Oh, what is it within me that is making me not be able to properly contribute in this new circumstance I find myself in? What quality do I need? What quality is holding me back? Right? And now you're in like the war with the ego. Because, I mean, I'll say for myself, like, I feel like I'm too lackadaisical. I feel like I'm a Mayavadi and I'm kind of just okay with whatever happens. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever.
Like, I can just be okay with it. And I feel within my heart, I mean, I'm just sharing this, and if anybody else sees a different fault in me, kind of let me know, but afterward. I feel I need to not be that guy anymore. But that's my own sort of question. Do I really not need to be that guy? Because I kind of like being that guy. You know. But is it fundamental to me? It isn't. You know, these are all like false, egotistic layers of very fine, subtle patterns of consciousness. And they all must be up for negotiation when you're in the proximity of the service of the Lord. All these things that we think we are, they're not who we are. There's something much deeper that we are. And we have to be willing to burn these other things and embrace who we need to become. And ultimately, that's Bhakti Anukula and Bhakti Pratikula. What within me is Bhakti Pratikula right now? What is the thing that's holding me back from the circumstance that I'm asked to contribute in? What is the thing that's keeping me from being the devotee that I need to be in this moment? To do the service that's being asked of me in this moment? And what is the quality that I need to take on to be that devotee? And what's wonderful is you can look around in the association of devotees and you can think, oh my, this devotee has that quality. This devotee has that quality that I like. And Gurudev said, this is the secret of Vaishnavism. Can you see a wonderful quality in a devotee and appreciate it? Gurudev said, you will receive that quality. So what is the problem? Can you imagine? You're in like the world of wealth. Just see the good qualities around you and you'll receive every one of them. Why would you live in the sewer? He says, because the other thing is true too. You see all the bad, you're going to get that. Just see the good qualities and receive from these wonderful people that we find ourselves in. Because you can have the exact opposite quality and be like, oh my God, look at all these problems with these people. Why am I even around these people? They're so screwed up. You know? And then you like look in the mirror and you're like, man, I'm awesome. And like everybody else is looking at you and going like, what an a-hole. You know? So I think that ultimately Gurudev actually said, I do this. He said that he does this. I do this. I go around and I see the good in everyone and I'm receiving that. It's like such a sweet sadhana. And that is Bhakti Anukul.
Is that
Absolute sweetness, I think. Actually, I found that video of Gurudev. I mean, he's smiling ear to ear. He's like, I'm going all around the world. And I am seeing so many wonderful devotees and so many nice qualities. And like, it was almost like, do you get it? It's like that simple. Like, this is super fun. And like all this like things are just like, you just keep on appreciating like this like mercy is just kind of like pouring on you. And he's just smiling the whole time. And you're going like, is it actually that simple? like really? That I just need to adjust my angle of vision.
Gurudeva said that we're seeking faith with affection.
Haribo, yes. Critically, has to be affectionate, love. And that's the land of Krishna, the land of charm, beauty, affection, love, and informal sweetness. Informal sweetness, actually inconceivable. That's the gift of Mahaprabhu. So that's our humble presentation. You will usually take like
20 minutes. Is there any thought or comment or question from anybody?
I have a question. If this, this unwanted qualities, so-called unwanted qualities, just by offering, aren't they transformed into the good qualities?
Could you repeat, please?
If you sincerely offer whatever that is not completely proper in you, or rather sometimes even cultivated wrong way, or whatever that is that if you sincerely offer, I don't have really my own strength to reverse that or change that or push, like sometimes you just really don't know how to approach. Is beyond your capacity feeling. And just offering that, is that eventually.
Yeah. I can give my own attempt at progressive existence, because as we've been talking, Saranagati is a full life practice. And we all have different parts of our lives that we're dealing with. We might be dealing with our family life. We might be dealing with a particular relationship with one of our kids or one of our siblings or whatever it is. And we can see that there's opportunity for progression in many parts of our life. But in Saranagati viewpoint, it's all part of your offering to Krishna. The whole life, the whole spectrum of your existence has to be unified. There can't be this divergent separation of like, that's the bad part of my life. It's the part, all of it has to be harmonized in a unified view. So different parts of your life might bring up different parts of progression that is being asked of you within your life. So for example, I'll take an example that sometimes I have a problem with procrastination, okay? Or another thing within me is I have a serious problem, or had, I can say, because I'm a different person now, a serious problem with interacting with people that I don't know. Like extreme, almost like catastrophic, crippling shyness, okay? And what's being asked of me in this lifetime is to not be that guy. And I had a really, really hard time with it. Because I was telling you, like, I used to get like crazy nervous, like calling up the pizza person, and my dad's just like, you gotta call the pizza person. I'm like, why do I have to call him? Oh, this is so unfair. Because my dad's like seeing it in me and being like, okay, dude, get over it. But it was not something I just got over. And like, I remember like my teacher asking me to give a presentation in class, in English class in high school. And I'm just like seriously dying, and I go to try to speak in front of my class and I forgot to breathe. So there's like no air in my lungs and I'm like, just like a catastrophe. And everyone's just like, what the freak is wrong with this kid? Like, it was just horrible. And then it just sort of compounds and you're just like, my God, I can't even
think now.
I can't think and I can't. And then I would be like, asked to lead a kirtan or something, at like the temple. Just like, wow. And, I went to India for a long time and then I started working kind of in my late 20s. And the whole time it's just the same thing. And I can see it's actually totally ego-based after some time when I'm thinking about it. It's like this fear of being judged improperly and coming across wrong and all these kinds of things that are ultimately not Saranagati. They're very fear-based, but it's a quality that I have, and my own feeling is like, this is intrinsic to me being me. And that's just who I am. I'm the guy that doesn't want to talk in front of people. Like, that's okay. Why can't I be that guy? And I mean, Ryan knows this because we got married when I started work, and I would get asked to do these presentations and stuff. So I would have ideas, and then my boss would be like, okay, do the presentation. And I'd be like, you don't want me to do the presentation. But it was just over and over and over again. And I'm like trying to pray to Krishna. And really, I mean, this is going to sound insane, but it was so intrinsic to who I thought I was that I would seriously consider destroying this body rather than dealing with presenting to someone. I mean, it really sounds insane, and I think back and I'm like, this is insane. But I would be driving to work and I knew I had to give a presentation, and I'm like not sleeping the night before and just like, and then I'm driving to work and I'm like, man, if I just crash my car into this pylon, then I would go to the hospital. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, it sounds so good. You know, like, and I'm not joking. Like, it really sounded like a relief to just go to a hospital and like not have to give this presentation. Then I go, and it would be, you know, kind of bad, kind of okay, but like, you know, like, but this just kept happening to me in my life, and I'm just going like, why are you doing this to me? You know, like, you see what I'm saying? It's like how crazy you can get when you're so entrenched in this particular aspect of who you think you are, and you're like resentful of God for his mercy in like transforming you. But eventually I did transform, and I became a different person.
Obviously.
And you know, some of it is like you just go into what is being presented to you and try and do it. And it's a little bit of faith that even though this is totally counter to every part of who I think I am, everything has pushed me in my life to have to pass into this. And I'm going to. But it's also like, okay, how do I do this? How do I get over that? And you might read an article on it. And that's guru also, right? Some guidance is coming to you. And then, you know, one of my bosses is like, you know what, I'm going to pay for you to take a presentation course, which is their way of very nicely saying, like, you suck. And, and you know, that helps, right? But it's understanding, like, I've got this issue, and like, Krishna's not going to let me get through this lifetime still being that guy. Right? Like, in this lifetime, I'm gonna have to like not be that guy anymore. Right? And there's all kinds of progression that's being asked of us. We all know something that is like this little fear thing that we have to go into, and we're kind of just like, nope, you know? And we have to go into it. Because
One more question.
because Krishna wants you to be a different person. The service wants you to be a different person. And there's a trust in the Lord, and there's also a reception of many things in the environment that can help you. And sometimes there's just like, you know, these expressions in these songs. It's like, you see me like I'm a mess. I can't remember to breathe as soon as I get in front of 3 people. You know, it's just like, help me. You know? And the Lord is good, and the transformation happens, but it takes sacrifice and trust and continued entering into the battlefield.
Yeah.
You know, the arena where you're battling yourself. And we've all been in that arena. We're probably all in that arena. But there's it's not unilateral. You know, the Lord is going to send you also other inputs to help you. You know, I mean, there might be a guy out there, there probably is, who's like spent 30 years studying procrastination. And you might look at yourself and going like, I gotta stop procrastinating. Or, you know what I mean? And then you're like, okay, like Krishna, help me procrastinate. Like as soon as I have something to do, even if I wanted to do it a day ago, you're like, oh my God, it'd be so great to learn how to hang glide. And somebody's like, hey, here's a hang gliding course. You're like, can we do that like next week? You know, like, you know, like that's how much of a procrastinator you are. And like, why am I like this? You know. And then there's some guy who like studied procrastination for 35 years, and he's just like, you know why you procrastinate is because of this, and you know what you really need to do is do this one thing or whatever it is. It's like, okay, watch the freaking video. You know, be like, it's not in this book, so I'm not gonna, you know. Like there's other inputs coming from the environment that are gonna help you for that particular thing that Krishna's not like, hey, get over it. Abandon that. That's not the part of you that needs to be anymore. You know? And in that sense, Guru Maharaj is saying the environment wants to help you. You know? And to receive that help and see Guru there. Because ultimately, it may be for Guru Seva. Right? Guru might be saying, hey, you need to go give this talk. And you're just like, no, I don't give talks. Didn't Krishna tell you that? Aren't you like, you know, tied in somehow? You know? But it's like, no, you got to go give the talk. Now it's like, okay, that's Guru's guidance. Now it's like, okay, but I can't do that. Okay, then I have to go like get guidance from everywhere. Like, how do I become that guy who could do my Guru Seva?
So, my question, what I want to ask, is it is actually for the senior folks of aspiring devotees that who want to progress in spiritual life, of course, and you explain everything so beautiful, and we feel that is so. Has been in the past because we are older now, so important. And now that we're older, now that we don't have so much energy, what advice would you give to what Rai also said, that friction between what can I do, what can I not do, and what not to over push, and because the energy is not there really.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to these senior aspiring devotee folks?
First of all, I just want to say that so many obeisances always. You know, Gurudev said Srila Swami Maharaj cracked a hole. He made a tunnel through the mountain of Western ego. But he had a lot of tunnel diggers, and we just are forever in your debt. And it's interesting, I've been thinking about this a lot because, you know, my parents are getting old, and there's a lot of devotees that are getting older, and you see the body just start to deteriorate. And I can also feel my own body starting to deteriorate. It's like, hey, will you work, please?
Can you repeat the question first for the devotees on the line?
Oh, Sachi Devi is saying, you know, sometimes I'll just try to summarize it properly. As our body gets older, it doesn't work, we don't have energy, and we find ourselves in this position where we're in this vehicle that isn't operating properly, and yet we're alive, and like, how do we do our service? How do we find service and perform that service when we don't necessarily have the capacity to do the things we used to do?
Yeah.
Maybe, is it?
Yeah.
That's about right.
Yeah. And the offering of progression.
Offering a progression. See, the thing is that ultimately you're conscious and you're breathing. And we don't know what the service is. I don't know what the service is. I remember when I was really struggling with a corporate job that I had, like suffering every day, you know, not just giving presentations, but like dealing with a horrible boss and all these kinds of things, who I thought was a horrible boss, probably not horrible. And I had to walk into the building and I would just like go like, I don't know why I have to do this, but I offer this step and I offer this step and I offer this step and I offer this step as I'm walking to the elevator. You know what I mean? And I offer this eye blink. Oh, I just blinked my eyes again. I offer this eye blink. And I offer this breath. And I don't know why I have to do this, but I have to. And if you're alive, he wants something from you. The minute this body doesn't have a use in the service, it's going to go. So we have to be dynamic in our thinking. We don't know what reality is. We don't really know who we are, and we don't know our contribution. And sometimes we think, oh, the only way I contribute is by doing this thing. Like if I pick up this table and move it from here to there, that's like something, I did something. And now I can't pick a table up. So now what do I do? But you're alive, and you're breathing, and you have something to do. You have something to give. And that's the meditation. And if you don't know what it is, then breathe in and offer it. And breathe out and offer it. And blink your eyes and offer it. And take each step in each moment and offer it. Because for some reason, you're breathing. And for some reason, you're walking. And for some reason, your eyes are blinking. Right? And even you're sleeping. You can offer it. Why do you need to sleep? I have no idea why we need to sleep. Right? But we all have to sleep. We've been put in this form that has to sleep. It's said that the devotee can offer their sleep. Well, maybe we can try that. You know? And maybe the offering is internal. Maybe there's a transformation that's being asked of you. It's not less. Sometimes it's more than the external offering. So, life is full of meaning, and every moment of it contains infinity, really, in the deepest sense. Because Krishna is Kala also. He says, Kalosmi. Kalo, I am time. Right? Somehow we're in this body where we have a perspective where we see time elapsing. You know, there's another, you talk to physicists, there's another viewpoint where it's like, it's all, everything, everywhere, all at once, right? It's all just like, right? And the perception of time is just a perception. But remember, it's perception and consciousness. Krishna is consciousness. Consciousness is reality, right? So somehow we're perceiving something. Somehow we're in a body that's breathing. Somehow we live in this world of perception. Like it all has to be offered. And that internal asking and offering of what you have is super meaningful. And I know you will receive reciprocation and clarity from that internal process. Because you're not the only one feeling that. I mean, I talk to my mom all the time about this. She's just like, I literally can't do it. Like, I do 4 things and I'm like I'm just, like my body doesn't have energy, right? And we're looking into it, it's like, how does the mitochondria make energy? And how do we, make your mitochondria more, but it's like at a certain point, the thing is breaking down, right?
And, but she still has something to give. And I think it's just, you start by giving the next moment.
You can.
And I know that there's clarity that will come. But sometimes even the moments of unclarity are the moments where the most vipralambha is generated, where the most intense hankering, the most desire, the most need is generated. And that's actually a wonderful wealth. You know, Goswami Maharaj gave such a beautiful example. He says, we're like an unripe mango. And what you do with an unripe mango is you put it in the sun. And the sun ripens the mango. And he said that sunlight is vipralambha. That warmth of necessity, that warmth of this gap we're feeling between where I should be and where I'm at, that we can't define, but we know it's there. And the willingness to not ignore that, but to plunge into it and feel that separation and to see what it contains, and to feel the necessity that arises from that, to plunge into the depths of vipralambha. You know, we don't know what Sri Radha is feeling, but we all have our own small vipralambha that's driving us. That's actually a great gift, and that's sitting in the sun and being ripened. Okay.
So this is a good question, right?
Yeah.
No, I just don't know if it's the same one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think this is a controversial question a bit. However, we don't want to shy away from controversial questions. And I think they're valuable. So that's what I would say about this next question.
Okay.
And I don't know who it's from.
It's Sudarshan Krishna from the original.
All right. Woo woo.
Does everybody know Sudarshan Krishna Prabhu? Oh my God. He's such a great guy.
He has the voice of an angel.
He has the voice of
we
an
can
angel.
say that.
Incredibly talented. He made the Krishna Search website. If anybody doesn't have it, it's amazing because you can search Guru Maharaj's books. And it's super helpful if you're looking for any particular topic or whatever. It's all on there. Super easy interface. He's a wonderful developer. Has a beautiful family. He's such a great devotee.
Where from?
From Mauritius.
Oh yeah,
From Mauritius.
He was there last year in Thailand.
in Thailand, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't.
So I'll read the question out loud if that's helpful. And I have a couple thoughts that I'll say first because I think it's a rich subject. If we are to see that Krishna is doing the perfect things, okay, we find that Srila Guru Maharaj left Sri Gaudiya Math after seeing the whole political issues. He didn't see the perfect situation there and stayed. Same for the last moments of Srila Gurudev, he did feel some disappointment. How can we see the perfection when we see that the acharyas have found bad things and moved far from that?
Haribo. Good question.
So there is a very, very nice page 107 of Centennial Anthology where I find it very interesting, like Srila Guru Maharaj, he says the name Satan, which I'm surprised. I was like, when I stumbled. Satan. Yeah. I was surprised. I, for some reason, didn't expect him to be like naming evil in a certain sense, right? And it's a very unusual viewpoint. Guru Maharaj's viewpoint is so broad. I find it the most exciting viewpoint that I have ever come across in the entire world. And I hope that I will always find it the most exciting viewpoint and that I can stay in proximity of it in some way. And his viewpoint is, he goes, if Satan doesn't exist, then how would we know that God is so merciful and kind? And then he uses, in the most amazing way, I think it's also in Loving Search for the Lost Servant, where he says Judas has a very difficult service, right? And you start to think of what's Judas's job, right? Even Jesus knows he's going to do it before the end. One of you will betray me before the night is over, or the night, like something like that, he says, right? It's like this kind of, what is it called when you see the future?
Prophecy.
Yeah, some prophetic moments some prophetic moment is occurring, right? And for those who are, no one's naming their kid Judas, right? So like for all of like history, forevermore, like this name is like tainted. So then Guru Maharaj's illumination on him is he had to perform the most difficult service. And so like the level of where this umbrella can go is everywhere. So we're starting to go, oh, I'm seeing that, this thing happened in the environment and that's quote unquote bad, right? But what happens when Srila Guru Maharaj quote unquote leaves something bad? Okay, what is gonna force like the extraction, this word expression, it's a really amazing meditation to think that something's getting crushed and the essence of the thing is coming out, right? So Guru Maharaj is going into deeper meditation on what? What are we doing? And then this composition of jewels from all of this, right? Who has been given the name Shastra Nipuna, right? Who has the title that can understand and glean the true meaning of the scriptures. Pulling, and really we can say, like when we're going through Guru Maharaj's readings, like the compendium of what he's pulling, like this ancient Purana, this player's here, this pastime here, and with speed. If you're listening to Guru Maharaj's lectures, it's not like it's like, give me 10 minutes to think about that. It's just like, shoom, like immediately this story is coming where there's like resolution to this very difficult questions happening. But it is getting expressed from something. So this idea that there is some wonder behind the circumstances that are happening can never be abandoned. That there's great purpose in everything. Maybe we need to dive deeper into what we're doing. Maybe we wouldn't take our own spiritual lives so seriously if everything was going. I remember, and Suyash, to speak to this question, I had the same question resounding for quite some time, thinking like, why is it getting so, like what I would say is needlessly bumpy, right? Like we've got enough going on. Like life is really difficult, like truly, without injecting any additional friction. It's really hard. And all of a sudden there's just this, like the Bengali word is tumulo, and it comes, English that's tumultuous, right? There's this kind of like tumultuous sensation. And the feeling that came to me, and I hope this is helpful, is I don't even know that we would be sitting here speaking of these things if it wouldn't be for that. And so then would I wish for it to be different than that? That same thing that was causing all the distress is actually forcing me to read with some necessity. And we do need to go deeper into our spirit, and we do need to recalibrate our spiritual lives, and we do need to reassess our journey, and we do need to let go of previous misconceptions that we had, right? And we do need to go like, well, what was Gurudev giving? And that's the question that happens when there's conflict. Well, what is the teacher actually saying to us? And what will I adhere to that the teacher is saying to us? And now all of a sudden it's becoming very real because I have two different opinions on what I need to do. And now it's becoming very real and churning within me. And so all of a sudden you have this perspective from Guru Maharaj that is saying this thing externally, again, right? The external manifestation is coming for me to pierce through that, to actually search in a deeper way. And so each one of these progressions, we can say like spiritual life, there's many, many options of what can happen in terms of like a society of people, right? If we don't recalibrate what we're doing, maybe it goes underground. We know we're in danger of that, right? Like it can happen. Spiritual life can go underground, not be seen by people, maybe even for thousands of years, until a devotee of such a caliber again receives Amnaya and spreads that to the people, right? The question is, and will I even be utilized to spread that to the people? Is that even my service to spread? Like, we don't know exactly what the Lord wants. We do hear that he's merciful and wants to distribute himself, and so we have to try and adhere to that. But will I be the person that can be, we have to recalibrate. And so this idea that the obstacle is highlighting, and then Guru Maharaj says in that same section, so on page 108, from another angle of vision, it may be seen that his grace is inside of that circumstance and carefully helping me along the way. Mm-hmm. So that's my offering to you, and I hope that's helpful to you, is that it is forcing a much deeper churn in our own spiritual lives, and that it will make us question what is being given to us. It will make us question what is being given to us. It will make us reassess who we are and what we have come for. And again, try and read these books with some level of sincerity.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And a very deep question, Sudarshan Prabhu. I have just maybe a couple highlighting things here. There's only the Siddhanta, I'll say this, only the Siddhanta of Guru Maharaj can digest these things. Because everyone is looking for some type of external harmony. The harmony does not come externally. The harmony comes internally. And harmony has no meaning unless there's something to harmonize. What does that mean? There's a discordant note. Okay, harmony means somehow the discordant note is all of a sudden beautiful. Right? In fact, it's more beautiful than if there wasn't a discordant note. So Guru Maharaj uses that musical term for us to contemplate and have some understanding that just because something is discordant doesn't mean it's not a part of the beautiful symphony. And in fact, the symphony wouldn't be as beautiful without it. So he's giving these examples multiple times in Centenary Anthology. There's that beautiful chapter, Absolute Harmony. And it's actually seriously, if you cannot read this, if you haven't read this chapter, or if you can't receive this from Guru Maharaj, you can't actually process life. Because you can't even process the Shastra. Guru Maharaj is having this conversation with this devotee, and he's just why are devotees fighting? Guru Maharaj is it serves Krishna. And he's just yeah, but we should all be at peace. Guru Maharaj is I'm summarizing very drastically. Well, Guru Maharaj says, Balaram is almost Krishna himself. And his Shishya is Duryodhan, and he's friends with Duryodhan. He goes, how do you harmonize this? Is it all bogus? The guy's oh, I just want peace. But Guru Maharaj is making a point. He's saying, these things are necessary to create urgency and clarity within the play. The Mahabharata, it's not a story. It's not a journey. There's no progression within consciousness. It was and then Yudhishthira was born, and everyone was rich,
and had lots of ghee. The end. What is it? There's no motion in that. So we have to start to see these things from a different perspective. That actually what's coming out is some refinement of consciousness by conflict, by contrast, by opposition. Even in Vrindavan, there's an opposing camp of gopis, right? Chandravali and Radharani. And they're different, right? And Sakhistali is where Chandravali is. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I mean, when you read the song, each of these groups of song, where it's coming like, oh, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial, what is Atmaniveda, what, at the end, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to have a high song where he's saying, what's beneficial? I'm in the camp of Radha. What's not beneficial? Sakhistali nahi. I will never go to Sakhistali, right? Like, he's highlighting something very fine, right? And that's in the highest plane. Everything in conflict is enhancing what is true. So all these things are driving that. This is, again, we cannot understand this. If you're not in the line of Guru Maharaj and Gurudev, you cannot understand this. You have to be in the line of Chaitanya Saraswati Maharaj. Because Guru Maharaj is harmonizing all of reality. And Guru Maharaj himself, what happened? All these guys are fighting. There's multiple levels of conception, multiple levels of reception of Saraswati Thakur's gift. Right? Some people, where their consciousness is at, all they can take is some type of superficial instruction. Right? Like I remember when I was in Gurukula, Prabhupada liked to eat fried in the morning. Well, there were people who were like, you have to eat fried in the morning because Prabhupada ate fried. It's like, that's their takeaway of like what Prabhupada had to give. It's like, eat fried in the morning. And it's, there's like, if you're ever around Isgami, which is where I grew up, there's like 38 million people, 38 million versions of Prabhupada said. Well, Prabhupada said, and everyone's justifying whatever their little BS is with like a Prabhupada said. Well, that's not only happening there. That happened in Gaudiya Math. Where Guru Maharaj is saying, he's giving relative instructions according to the person and the circumstance. But what did he actually come to give? You have to see where the relativity of that is, right? And he's telling these people this, and they're all fighting with each other. And Guru Maharaj is like,
time to go.
Withdrew. But what did he do when he withdrew? He wrote this.
I know.
So would we have this without that? No. That situation drew out the essence of what it means to be a devotee. So these things, they're necessary. And that's the whole point of this book. Like in this section, Surrounded by Karma, it's within a chapter that says God consciousness versus society consciousness. The society consciousness says the society must perpetuate and the society should run perfectly and there shouldn't be in this society problems within the society and the society should, keep going. And Guru Maharaj is like, well, actually, sometimes when the society has problems, you have to re-examine in yourself. What did I come here for? What am I doing here? And the society's running great. Your materialistic ego is feeling great. You're in a nice group consciousness. You have the group energy. You're all moving forward. Things are expanding. And sometimes it's really just your material aspects that are getting nourished. And you're like, yay! And all of a sudden it's like, boom, 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 boom. Everything falls apart. And you're just like, why would you do that? But then you have to go, wait, why am I here? What am I doing here actually? What did I come here for? And what was Prabhupada giving? What's Guru Maharaj giving? What was Gurudev giving? how do I navigate this? I can tell you for myself, I would not have read these books with the desperation that I'm reading them if there wasn't something kind of falling apart and me going like, wait, what is this about? What are we actually doing here? And Guru Maharaj is saying, the society is not necessary. The society is simply helpful. But the thing that matters is the God consciousness. So Guru Maharaj is saying, don't get caught up in society consciousness. You have to be caught up in God consciousness. And they're not the same thing. And sometimes the environment arranges itself in such a way where we have to confront that. And that's mercy. That's good. You do have to confront that. Otherwise, it's just too easy. You just keep going along, and you never actually read Sri Garuda's grace with desperation. And you're never kind of just going, time to read Sri Garuda's grace. The disappearance of blah, 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 no, we're done. What's the next sadhana? You know what I mean? You're just doing it like a sadhana. And then somebody goes, what'd you read tonight? I was like, I read something in Sri Garuda's grace. Well, what was it? I actually don't remember, to be honest. Like, you're just going through your day like, you know, it's like you have to have desperation. You have to have something that's pushing you to go deeper and to find what is the essence. What is the God consciousness that I came here for? And how do I find that thread, even though the society that was the vehicle for my connection to that is now falling apart? That doesn't mean that God consciousness is falling apart. It means it's actually, in a lot of cases, getting clarified. So these things, Guru Maharaj is saying, not only are they a part of the process, Guru Maharaj says, our spiritual progress needs this. That's what he says here. We would not progress spiritually without it, in other words. We would be stuck. It's going to devolve into fundamentalism. Every religion does. Why? Because it's just too easy to say, do this, do this, do this, do this. You start fitting it into your mechanical view of the material universe. How do you make a car run? Well, you need a fuel, you need an explosion, you need the piston to go up and down, right? You need to, and then the engine runs. How do you do a spiritual life? Well, you do this and that and that and this and this and that and that and this, and then you go to Happy Land. Right? You're just going to become that. And you're going to lose the essence of surrender, and you're going to lose the essence of actual connection and actually giving yourself in a dynamic way. So that's why these things are seen as good. Even though they're disappointing and they're difficult and they're generally seen as something that we don't want to happen. Guru Maharaj is saying, it needs to happen. Your spiritual life needs this. Like, not your spiritual life can get through this. It's like, if this didn't happen, your spiritual life would not be as progressive as it is when it does happen.
Generated Saranagati.
That's Saranagati.
I think it's
It's
in
all good.
Centennial Anthology. There's a quote of Guru Maharaj where he says, chastity means to remember why you originally came. That's his definition of chastity. And so all of these things become highlighted so strongly within us when the necessity for them is coming. And Guru Maharaj says over and over, actually in Centennial Anthology and other places, like, don't be so hasty to create a new world. And if he's saying that, then we know that he wasn't hasty in his own decision as well, right? We don't understand actually like the details of the considerations. All we know is that he's a pure sadhu and he made that decision. So, because sometimes people like, they'll say, oh, well, Guru Maharaj did this and he left. So, you know, like this person was really rude to me, so I'll leave, you know, or something like that. So we want to be very cautious with like slapping like our experience and then comparing it and contrasting it to what seems like a possibly similar experience. Everything's ever fresh, and we know that there's these directions from Guru Maharaj that we're not going to like create this new world. How that being said, the path unfolds, right? Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam is one of the 4 shlokas that is emphasized in Bhagavad Gita. Means I will give you the intelligence. Krishna himself is saying, I will give you the intelligence by which you will find me, right? So that means that there's always that radical responsibility that is happening, and the Lord is communicating with us. And if he makes it explicitly clear that we have to make some kind of radical move in order to make progress, then we'll do that. And if it's not explicitly clear, then we're going to tolerate that sensation and see what's inside of it, right? Like this is actually a very scientific process for making decisions. And so that's also very helpful that you're cultivating this kind of affectionate perception of reality. You're letting it speak to you. You're letting it unfold itself, and then you're proposing to the environment some offering in order to try and live a progressive life, right? And then the next stage or the next step will come to you. And it may be surprising, and it may be radical, or it may look very similar to what it was in the past. It's very hard to say. And you're going, but that trust that everything is happening as it should, right? And then we're saying like, what's coming out of Guru Maharaj's decision, right? That this idea of aparada banjan pat, which is like very deep and profound, right? This idea that there is some shelter for the most fallen, that's very hopeful. The fact that really we hear in the story that Nityananda himself is telling Guru Maharaj that he has to be merciful if he's asking for mercy, right? So then that means that's us. We were the fallen people, right? I mean, when we used to go see Srila Guru Maharaj's sister, they're a Vedic family, which we had no right to be near, right? Like it would get washed with Ganga Jal when we left. So good to know that, like we were we are the fallen souls that all came about. So then you're saying that what looked like controversy and tumultuousness turned into like a great ocean of mercy, right? So we have to see that those circumstances are mining. They're always mining something.
Yeah.
Would it be helpful? There's like 3 paragraphs in here that are so helpful. This is literally the exact circumstance that Guru Maharaj is talking about. Like the Guru has left, and things are falling apart. People are fighting different conceptions. All of a sudden, you understand different conceptions, right? Some people have superficial conceptions. Some people have deeper conceptions. Everyone's banging, right? Because the Guru is harmonizing all of that. Guru Maharaj says,
What page?
this is page 79 of this book. It's in the chapter God Consciousness versus Society Consciousness. Super important conception and really the savior from all kinds of problems that happen with religion.
Are the translators looking for it?
I've pasted it. So just
The section is called Surrounded by Karma. Okay, I'm just going to read the 3
Is it from even a spiritual knowledge?
paragraphs.
Surrounded by karma
Surrounded
is
by
the
karma.
larger heading.
It's like page
You want a different
46 of the old book. It's 79 in this book. 46, 42, something like that. 47.
It's been read a few times.
We have to scrutinize more accurately what we thought we understood. Everyone must ask himself, where am I? What is my real need? How much am I hankering for the real thing? Do I even really want? Like, what am I doing here? All these things will be expressed and made public. And then Gurumar says something so important and profound. It means we're going through this difficulty, we're re-examining ourselves. And then he says, this is the real field of sadhana. In other words, all the other sadhanas are so that you can do this sadhana. If you're performing all the other sadhanas properly, you will get to the point where you can do this sadhana. Because this is the real sadhana. How do I make spiritual advancement in the moment of difficulty? This is the real field of sadhana or practice. Our practice, our advancement needs all these difficulties. So not only is it like, oh no, this happened. It's like, if this didn't happen, you wouldn't have advancement. Your advancement needs this exact thing. Otherwise, we may not know what is progress. We have some idea of progression in like a mechanical way. Right? Like I got really good at putting on a dhoti. Like, you know, if we had like a dhoti putting on contest, like I would do it in like, I'd do it faster than you, buddy. More advanced.
37 seconds.
You know what I mean? It's like you start thinking that you get good at a certain set of mechanics, and now you're like getting good at being a devotee. We will become hypocrites and give the same adulterated thing to others. So we have an adulterated view of what Krishna consciousness is, and then that's what we're giving out. To feel the burn and actually feel what progress is. So to purify ourselves, it is necessary so many disturbances come. This is not a problem, it's needed. It's necessary.
Grace.
It's grace. And Gurumar says, God has no error. This isn't like, whoops, there was a bug in the code. Oh, they go in there and fix that. No, it's exactly what should happen. He commands the environment. It's not our responsibility. The responsibility of the environment does not rest upon us. Our responsibility is within ourselves. The environment is in the hand of the Lord, and He has not done any wrong to me. If I am sincere, I have to adjust myself with this environment and put my faith before Him. By our stand in any circumstance in the battle, our patriotism will be put to the test, and we will be tested to see whether we are real soldiers or not. And beautiful statement of courage, Guru Maharaj. Anything may come, we will have to face that. I must not forget my Lord, my Guru, my Gauranga, my Radha Govinda under any circumstance. Under all unfavorable circumstances, I will stand with my head erect and say, yes, I am a servant of that sampradaya. Everyone will leave me and I will stand alone. With this attitude, we must march on, whatever the circumstances may be. And then the recognition from the higher quarter may come in my favor. Yes, under such trying circumstances, He is still there, and our superiors will be pleased with us.
Wow.
Hold on. Okay, I'll do this.
Unthinkable.
Okay, this book is out of print in our external vision, and is super difficult to find this book. In Salt Lake City, we did quest our way here to London and found there were some, and we brought some back so that people can get them in Salt Lake City. The only place you can really buy this book in the world right now is from London. And if you don't have this book, I highly encourage you to get this treasure. It exists it's a beautifully printed book. It has its own bookcase on it. It has the gold edging on it, and it's embossed on the front. But that does, and really we have a debt to actually how this book was made. There was a tremendous ocean of care actually in the production of this book by very dedicated souls.
Yeah, UK, London.
Yeah, and so if you want to try and get this book, which we're hopefully all of the weekend's talks are based on this book, right? Then you can get it in London. So I hope that you please contact the London devotees to try and get this book.
And online,
Gaudiyadarshan.com.
Okay, gaudiyadarshan.com is the bookstore where you can get this book, and it will come in the mail mysteriously and wonderfully.
And also, hopefully, doesn't feel like an ad because we don't need to sell this book. No amount of money is could
No, really.
equate to what this is. It's just more we're saying if you want one, we have them. Like we thought they were disappeared in the world, so it's not like now here comes the sales pitch. We would actually just keep them all, but we want everyone to have them. We don't want them to just be.
the price is ridiculous.
The price, it's not
£10.
it's just more, they're available here. If you,
Yeah, these books should be £100, and they're absolutely priceless. Really, they're truly priceless. I just want to also just give obeisances to some great devotees in the past who we're grateful to. Sripad Bhaktiyananda Sagaraj made this book with Gauranga Prabhu and other followers of Guru Maharaj at that time. So we always pay obeisance to their sacrifice. And if you don't read English, just put it on your altar and worship it. These things are not only being done with the intellect. This is a great representation of the internal bhajan of Srila Guru Maharaj on what is actually Krishna consciousness. So it's priceless.
Yeah.